Mea culpa, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I would be able to sit at the president's table. I will next time to make up for it.
That's a fine.
Now, it's taken 10 months for me to come back and talk about the decision of the election in 2017. I don't think you guys were particularly interested in the decision of the election on the 25th of September last year because it wasn't a high participation rate from the club. If you remember, I tried all sorts of enticements to get you to vote, including participation in a raffle where you would have gotten more Whittaker bars than William usually gives out. But even that didn't result in much. But I'm here to report back dutifully for those who did faithfully participate. So the first set of questions are ones just to refresh your memory. So when did Jacinda become leader of the Labour Party? I'll just keep this in mind, and I will show you the answers in a second. What was that? What date was that?
Last year.
Yeah. When was the actual election day?
25th of September.
Right, 23rd of September. When were special votes counted and final results announced? When was the coalition government announced? And when did the government take over? So here are the actual dates. So if you got all of them right, please make sure you make a contribution. And it sounds like most of you got at least one wrong, so make a contribution as well, please. Now, I think the interesting thing is our Prime Minister. Everyone's making a big song and dance about the fact that she's going back to work after 6 weeks, when her baby's 6 weeks old. I just want to know how many men in the audience here went back to work when their babies were 6 weeks old? Who from the Wellington Rotary Club actually got the outcome right? Well, here's a chart. And as you see, 60% of those who did pledge thought it was going to happen pretty quickly, but 28% actually got it right, 7 people. And the 2 winners are Stuart. Is Stuart here today?
No, I'll take a try from you.
All right. The promised bottle of wine. And the runner-up was Lee Wilkinson. Thank you. It's not even whiskers. But the main winner was me because I had thought that this would be a very popular thing for everyone to get involved in, and I thought I said I would contribute an equal amount to the pledges back to Rotary, and I was expecting to have to contribute something like $800, but in fact it turns out $160. So we made $320 out of this particular little exercise last year. I thought it was also interesting to think about how many parties got above the 0.5% in New Zealand, just kind of reflecting a little bit on MMP. So actually, how many do you think? 7. Yeah. Because the Opportunity Party and Maori Party both got over 0.5% as well. But it only went down as far as New Zealand was because they had, obviously, Epsom, the seat. But then, here's another interesting one. How many other parties were there? Look at that. I mean, we're almost big enough to be a party here. Maybe we should go next year. We should aspire to become as big as the Internet Party. Now, Parliament breakdown. So what is the usual final vote in Parliament? It almost always works out to be 63-57. this is the great news, the upward trend in the number of female MPs. So we've got 46 now. But here's the next final test. Can you identify all of those cabinet ministers? Shane Jones. How many can identify all 7? How many can do 6? 2, 3, 4? How many can do 5? How many can do 4? So we're really basically Jacinda. Everybody knows Jacinda, right?
Yep.
Here you go. Those are our cabinet. And or do you think I got the wrong photo? Oh, that's a good excuse. I think we had more women cabinet ministers with the Helen Clark government, but nevertheless, it's worth keeping in mind that we're doing quite well now with that gender balance is improving. So thank you all very much, and I think it's going to be a very interesting next 2 years as we watch how this coalition government works. Thanks, President.
Thank you, President Marion. It's a great pleasure I introduce Bianca. Bianca is in the country for 12 months. It's a shared exchange by our club and Mount Kaukau, the newest Rotary Club in Wellington. Kaukau are hosting her for 3 quarters, and we are hosting her for this quarter. Bianca's our guest at home with Kate and I. Bianca is from Cagliari in Sardinia, and it's an absolute pleasure. She's been here 2 weeks, and we're looking forward to the rest of the stay. Bianca.
So, I live in Sardinia, and it's the Alanda Circle. So, yeah, I live there, and it's the main city. Sardinia has 1.6 million inhabitants, and yeah, that's a view of my city. And you probably know Sardinia for its beautiful beaches, but that's much more, such as ancient traditions and lots of food. So I really like music. I play the piano and I play a bit of guitar and ukulele too. And I really like drawing. That's one of my drawings. And yeah, that's my family. We also really like to travel. And there's some photos of some places we went. And there's also my dog. And I really like her, but I'm allergic. But I still really like her. So that's my school, the building in the center. It's really different from New Zealand schools, also because it's one building, and students stay in the same class, and teachers change their classes, and I find out that the school system is really, really different. Yeah, those are my friends. I really like spending time with them, and yeah, they were really nice, and they all came to the airport when I was leaving. And yeah, so why did I choose New Zealand? I chose New Zealand because it's in the other part of the world, and I thought it was a really different culture, but a really, really, really beautiful place. And that's not the usual place where you go when you live in a place like Sardinia, because it is really, really far. So I thought that would be a really good experience. And in this year, I hope I will improve my English. I will meet lots of new people and have new experiences, things that I can do only here. And when you talk about New Zealand, not lots of people know exactly where it is. So I found out that I know where it was. So yeah, so I hope I can also bring a bit of New Zealand back home and just bring a little bit with me. Yeah. So that's it.
Seby, you are joining our club as a member after you...
Hang on.
Oh,
Wouldn't have introduced
oh really?
You're jumping the gun.
He's got a buckle running.
Very fast off the mark, Anthony. Thank you, President Marion. Anthony. It's my pleasure to introduce Seby Reeves. I first met Seby when he was a student at Scots College and he was opening the batting with our son, Willie. Seby, following Scots College, he went to Otago University, Victoria University, and he got an LLB and a BCom. He then moved overseas. He was working in Sydney, and he came back and worked with Maud Miller, well known to this club. He went to London, working in several places in London. Then he joined the ANZ Bank in Auckland, and then moved with the ANZ Bank to Wellington. And recently he joined Forsyth Bar as an authorised financial advisor. In good company. He just got in before our very own Peter Lawson joined the same company. His community involvement includes trustee on the Scots College Foundation Board. His personal interests include 2 young children and a wife. He's a keen athlete with a passion for skiing and golf. He's also completed several half marathons and the Paris Marathon. Seby's father was a keen Rotarian until he entered Parliament, and Seby will undoubtedly reduce the average age of this club, and I have no doubt he'll make a great contribution to the Rotary Club of Wellington. Your turn.
Thank you, William. Seby, you are joining our club as a member after your application was endorsed by the board and then the membership of the club. We have endorsed you becoming a member of the Rotary Club of Wellington because you've shown yourself to be a person worthy representative of your vocation, committed to the ideals of Rotary, and clearly willing to do your part in putting these ideals into practice. Since Paul Harris convened that first meeting of 4 people in Chicago in 1905, Rotary International has gained a reputation that is unmatched throughout the world. Our principal motto is service above self, and the objective of our club and other Rotary clubs is to encourage and foster such service. All members are aware that everything we do is guided by our 4-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? You are now a full part of the International Rotary Service Team and are joining 1.2 million Rotarians in 34,000 clubs around the world. William will have outlined the expectations we have on your attendance at our luncheons and your involvement in our extensive range of committees. And William will act as your mentor in your early days of Rotary involvement. We will do our best to ensure that your journey with Rotary and with our club is the best it can be, and we value your help in maintaining the robust standards our club has achieved.
Welcome, Seby. That is your luncheon name badge. Some reading. Excellent. And your Rotary pin, which is your passport to Rotary clubs around the world.
Marvellous. Thank you very much.
And I'm assigning you to the Membership Committee and the Fellowship Committee. Fellowship Committee is the group that organises our social activities and they're a good bunch of people. It's a good way to get to know what else is going on in the club. So welcome.
Thank you very much.
Do you mind if I just say a couple of words? Yes, go for it. Sorry, I don't know if this is protocol or not, but thanks very much for those kind words and a warm welcome. I guess my father was a Rotarian and also my grandfather, so for me this is a continuation of that theme and instilled in me from a young age as being giving back to the community, which I think is very important. Being born and bred in Wellington, I've got a passion for this great city and I hope to see it continue well into the future, so I see Rotary as being a big part of that. So I look forward to meeting more of you over the next few weeks and months, and thanks very much.
Right, everyone. Settling back down now, we are about to hear from our speaker, and I'll ask Karen Coots to perform the introduction.
Kia ora koutou whānau. It's my great privilege to be able to introduce Grant, who's the CEO of Workbridge, and as many of you already indicated by your hellos to him, you know that he brings us over 25 years experience of working in the disability field. He, because of his personal experience of use of a wheelchair for mobility, he's brought to that job lived experience as well as professional skills and abilities. But that personal experience we will hear about in terms of what that adds to the ability to understand the issues of transition to employment in tertiary education for disabled people. Workbridge is the largest employment agency in New Zealand. It places 3,500 to 4,000 people in jobs every year. It has 75 employment consultants in 22 locations. It convinces, and it really shouldn't have to convince, it should be obvious, employers of people with disabilities to shift their mindsets. That kind of stuff we're talking about, attitudinal. Seeing the opportunity to offer a job to disabled people is a way of improving their talent pool and improving the bottom line. As if he isn't busy enough in his role as the CEO, Grant's also the chairperson of the Disability Employment Forum, and that consists of the disabled persons organisations, the various national lead bodies, and employment services advocating on employment issues for disabled people. Can you please help me welcome Grant Cleveland?
Thank you, Karen and Marion, for the opportunity to speak today. Kia ora koutou. Lovely to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to you. I was just thinking, my dad was a very strong and very keen Rotarian. He was a member of the Fitzroy Rotary Club in New Plymouth, president, and also received a Paul Harris Fellowship at one stage as well. And I know Rotary was very close to his heart. I thought I would talk a little bit, obviously, about Workbridge, but I also thought I'd start today by talking a little bit about my own history, really. As Karen was saying, I grew up with my disability. I was born with spina bifida, and so I have used a wheelchair from about the age of 8. I can remember as a child playing midget rugby with crutches. I think that my fellow players were probably more scared of me than I was of them. Went to Fitzroy Primary School, went to high school, and then managed to get through to university. I guess, like a lot of disabled people, through my schooling really struggled because I was spending a huge amount of time away from school, through operations, etc. And one of the things that was often quite frustrating about that was that people would assume that I was struggling at school because I had spina bifida, rather than the fact that I just spent a whole lot of time away from school, and that there was very little strategies put in place to actually help me catch up. I was really lucky in that I grew up in a family where my mum and dad assumed that I could do all the same things that my siblings could do. We're great at being advocates. I often think I was so pleased that I wasn't their social worker or whatever, because boy, they would advocate pretty strongly for me, particularly at school. And that really is what got me through. So, you know, my experiences growing up with my disability, I have certainly taken into this job and have found it invaluable in terms of the types of services that we are developing and have developed at Workbridge. So just to, what I want to talk about today is how we're working in partnership with employers and with job seekers. And Workbridge has quite a long history. So basically we were set up in 1931 as the Rehabilitation League, and our role was to support returned veterans from the war to rehabilitate back into work. And back in 91, it was felt that the rehabilitation leagues, there were 4 of them around the country, needed to be disbanded, and that we needed to set up an employment agency specifically for disabled people. And so Workbridge was set up as a result of that. I've been at Workbridge for about 9.5 years, and we, during the past decade, we have got about around 30,000 people, just over 30,000 people into jobs. We work on an annual basis with around 1,800 employers who give us a job. And we also have around 300 or 400 employers who give us multiple jobs. So one of the things that I guess is a really clear message that I'm wanting to get across today is there are actually already a number of employers that are on board and starting to employ disabled job seekers, and in seeing disabled people as the talent pool that they are. As Karen was saying, we're New Zealand's largest agency working with people with a disability, injury or illness. So we effectively work with anyone that has a condition that lasts 6 months or more, where there is barriers to employment, and we employ 75 employment consultants around the country whose role is to work with the employer and the job seeker to make that match work. And as well as getting people into jobs, our other role is to, we manage on behalf of the Ministry of Social Development a thing called support funds, which is there for employers to assist to pay for disability related support costs, either in work or in training as well. So when we talk with employers, I guess one of the things that we we try to do is actually get people employers to realise that actually we not only want you to do, to employ people because you think it's a socially responsible thing to do, but also because you see disabled people as a talent pool, and that we represent often a hidden talent pool that people haven't accessed previously, and that it's really good business to actually employ disabled people. There's quite a lot of research now that actually shows that it can really improve your bottom line. So who are we talking about? So when we talk about disabled people and we look at the census, the last few census, what we see is that 24% of our population now has a disability lasting 6 months or more, which is often a lot higher than actually people realise. And with an ageing population, that is going to continue to increase. So one of the reasons why I think we're starting to see that the employers are really coming on board with employing our job seekers is because they realise that their workforce is changing, that they've got staff who have increasingly got some sort of medical condition or whatever where we can offer support. What we also know is if you look at the 2013 census, there were around 228,000 disabled people of working age in New Zealand who were not employed, and 74% of those people told us that they wanted a job. There's a whole lot of myths out there about employing disabled people. So, often we think that disabled people are going to be more expensive to employ, going to be less productive, etc., etc. What the census of the last few times have shown is that around 10% of disabled people, only 10%, require modifications to their work area or equipment to actually help them do a job, and that only 28% have difficulty doing task or duty and need those duties altered. So one of the things that we say to employers is that often the supports that you are providing to other staff are the same supports that you would be providing to the majority of disabled people that we would be placing into employment. One of the things that we really need to think about is how we get more young people into employment, young disabled people into employment. So last year the labour force surveys showed that 42% of young disabled people are not in employment or educational training. So that's one of the areas that we're particularly also trying to do some work on to turn that around. Oh, just throwing that one out a bit. So if you look at research, Deloitte's back in 2011 in Australia did some research around the recruitment of disabled people. It's not opened.
It's the fonts.
Yeah, it's weird.
Is it missing
Anyway,
fonts?
we'll carry on. The cost, and basically what that Deloitte's research showed was that the cost of recruiting disabled people was generally lower, productivity equal or greater, and that disabled people had better attendance and less health and safety issues often than non-disabled staff. Why is that? I guess because we spend our lives trying to figure out ways of actually getting around. So that's what I find. I'm constantly trying to figure out what's the safest way to go into a building that's inaccessible, etc., etc. So often, we find that disabled people are actually very aware of health and safety issues. To the point that one of our employers, who is a Z retailer, so obviously has people at a petrol station, employed a guy with a vision impairment and had him as his health and safety person because he felt that he was probably going to be more aware of what the health and safety issues than anybody. So I guess employing disabled people can assist an employer to stay attuned to the disability community, and that's increasingly important given it's 24% of our population. It allows organisations to attract new perspectives, and it allows also an employer to prepare for an ageing workforce. So what's our point of difference? Well, firstly, we can support at Workbridge, our employment consultants can support an employer and the job seeker with pre-employment support, helping the job seeker prepare, etc. We can help with recruitment and selection, and we also can arrange workplace reports for the disabled job seeker. And I guess the good news is we're funded by the Ministry of Social Development, so our service to you is free. We also have a range of other services. So we have, for example, an employment ambassador, Selwyn Cook, who is an employer who has previously employed 85 of our job seekers, whose role it is to work with a range of employers to help them come on board. We also have a number of national partnerships, both with employers but also in the tertiary sector as well. I guess we also, through our work, provide 12 months of support, and we also can assist workplaces to become more disability confident, and we can arrange internships and work experience as well as getting people into jobs. Just going to talk about, so there are a whole lot of general services that we provide on an annual basis, but we also are providing some specific services to meet specific needs in the community. So one of the things that we've been doing with one of our partners in recent times is Z in Schools, which is a partnership with Z Energy, retailers, where we are they are assisting us to get young disabled people who are in special units within schools into employment. And they offer, last year we piloted a 12-week internship program which we developed with Z Energy and Service IQ. And the 4 students who were involved last year had a mixture of disabilities or impairments, and what we found was, this is the group of young people who often leave school without a qualification or employment. And these 4 young people at the end of the internship program all had service IQ unit standards, and also ended up, one that was in the final year of school ended up with a job, full-time job, who's now working for Z Energy in Christchurch. And I guess what we found from that experience was this group of young people who are often regarded as being unemployable, who often leave school without qualification, cope really well in this workplace. They completed tasks way beyond the expectations of the teachers, their families, and also the employer as well. And they learned specific work-based skills through the unit standards. And we believe this is a program that can really be scaled up, and we're certainly, one of our aims is to try to do that, look at different industries, different employers, to try to break that cycle of young people not getting into, disabled young people not getting into employment. We're also developing have developed a tertiary service as well, which is specifically aimed at disabled tertiary students, because despite the fact that a lot come out with qualifications, so there's around 6,000 or 7,000 disabled people in tertiary education at the moment. Many of